Hello there, and welcome to the Power of Integrity podcast, where leadership aligns with principles. I'm Ralph Adamo, your host, and I couldn't be more delighted to have our guest on today, Sam Hung of Capital Gains Financial Services. In full disclosure, Sam is a colleague of mine. His broker-dealer and registered investment advisor is Kovac Financial Network. We're both delighted to be associated with Kovac and have been for some years. Sam, welcome, and thank you for joining us on the Integrity podcast.
Ralph, it's an honor.
Wonderful. Well, Sam, since we traveled some similar paths, but in very different ways, would you tell our audience a little bit about your professional and personal journey so they can get a feel for where you've been, where you're going, and knowing who you are?
Great. Yeah. More or less been raised and in Orange County for the last 45 years. Went to a local high school in Orange County, UC Irvine graduate, Pepperdine MBA. I started out working for my parents in retail services, and then eventually manufacturing ice cream in Huntington Beach. We co-packed for the likes of Alliant Foods, U.S. Food Service, all the way up to 2008. 2008, as we all know, took a weird financial spin for a lot of people. And because of that, it affected our business as well. So I took a turn to the right, I guess, and got into financial services and met a couple of wonderful people that encouraged me to get into this profession. Started my chops at Merrill Lynch, built a career there. A couple of years there, went over to Wells Fargo Advisors, and then a couple more years there. Eventually, got the encouragement through you and a couple other people, Ralph, to eventually go independent. And we hooked up at Kovac, and I've been here since. We've been nothing but ecstatic and just really been building a company that we feel represents who I am as an individual. So it's been a great, wonderful ride. I think through the many experiences I've gathered, I've been able to, formulate a business philosophy that I feel that is very connective to a lot of our clients. And because of that, we've been able to, grow our practice in that sense.
Yeah, Sam, now you do something a little bit different than the average financial advisory firm. Some have gone this path and you have done it successfully. Tell us a little bit about your tax practice because it goes beyond financial services. You have in-house tax services for your clients.
Right. We feel that in order to effectively serve our clients, we have to understand their tax situation as well. And so in order to understand their tax situation, no better way to prepare their taxes. We own a CPA firm here in the city of Orange. And so we combine that with our financial services. So we're able to see both sides of that balance sheet, making sure that, hey, for every trade or every action that we make on the investment side, there's a reaction, there's a financial and tax reaction onto it. And so we want to address that. So when we go into an investment meeting, / tax client meeting, we always advise clients, hey, you know what, this is the action we're taking. Now, this is going to be a very sensible, a very thought out action that we're going to take. But at the same time, hey, here are possible consequences, whether it be from a capital loss or a capital gain perspective. These are things to expect. So there's really no surprises. We're very transparent of what we do. We try to make sure that we try to speak in the simplest forms possible, albeit most of our clients are very smart, very successful. But again, we try to break it down to little bite size that there's no confusion and there's absolute and clear transparency of what we try to do. And I think from that perspective, a lot of our clients appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure when you can give them that wholesome, holistic advice. I remember being taught, although we don't practice tax in-house here, we collaborate with those tax professionals of our clients. The interesting thing is for every dollar you save in taxes, you've got to figure out where to invest it, and how you invest will have an implication for taxes. So it is a circular conversation regardless, and we've got to be involved all the way around that circle for sure.
Absolutely. And we found that clients appreciate that. And so this is our model. This is kind of our basic building block in terms of how we serve our clients holistically. And 90, I think we have it over a 90%, dual role in among all of our clients, meaning that 90% of our clients basically do their taxes with us as well as their investments.
Wow. That's really good retention, and it speaks very well of both sides of your practice.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So, Sam, turning to our topic of integrity that I like to discuss with our every one of our guests, when you think about integrity, what does that word mean to you?
Transparency, clarity, honesty. I think those are all characteristics that, as an accountant, as a financial advisor, we need to display, and we need to be, I think, a true embodiment of.
Yeah, you put it succinctly: transparency, clarity, and honesty. Those are three solid pillars of integrity for sure.
Right.
Yeah, when you think about your professional journey, and is there any defining moments where integrity cost you something, where you had to make a tough choice but made it anyhow?
I think so. When we first started out as financial advisors, I tell you, we had hurdles that we had to meet, and we monthly hurdles that either you make it or you don't make it. And oftentimes, when we have to make the tough decision of doing the right thing, it actually puts you in a very precarious, in a very uncompromising position at the firm that you work for. And so, having said that, I've made the decision several times actually early in my career that, hey, you know what, doing the right thing is probably, that it's going to cost me in the long run. But certainly, I chose the latter, and I basically said, hey, you know what, integrity means a lot more. It's going to be with me for as long as I live. And so this is something that I'm not going to compromise in terms of, what I'm willing to do to close a deal or whatnot.
Yeah, that Sam, maybe turn our attention to a different aspect of this narrative or conversation. I'm always curious, was there ever a time where you stubbed your toe in a meaningful way around integrity and then realized you had to course correct without breaching any confidences and without peeling your skin off having to tell that story about any part of life, whether it was as a kid in a candy store or something that you went on and you learned a life lesson, because that's always impactful to our listeners.
In 2008, when we faced, a crossroad where, hey, when we were in the process of closing down our ice cream manufacturing firm, we had to do a lot of that in terms of we had a, you know, we had creditors that we had to deal with, and we said, hey, listen, this is my last dollar. And what do I need to do to make sure that you're taken care of, but at the same time, it gives me, it helps me, it was a tough time. And I basically, and with the support of my wife, we basically discussed, hey, what was right? And the right thing was, hey, making sure that the vendors that helped us along the way were taken care of with the limited resources we had at the time. I think it was a very trying time for me, Ralph. And from that standpoint of view, it built, I think it gave me a sense of, hey, fortitude. It reinforces the fortitude. It reinforced, the importance of really honoring your word, telling the vendor, hey, listen, you helped me along the way. No matter if it's my last dollar, I'm going to take care of you. I think that was a very, very tough time for me. And with God's help, we were able to get through it. And I think we're better for it. And I think that was really a telling time for me. It really, really was.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Sam. I know it couldn't have been easy. 2008 was rough for so many households and so many businesses. The Great Recession came, it came swiftly and it came gravely, and it was quite deep, and it spared few, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it was a riptide, I tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. When, when I think about that and the lessons you learn from it, it's, my mind is turning to when you go through the fire, it does purify the steel, doesn't it?
Yes.
And your conviction level deepens as to doing the right thing, even in face of something difficult.
Yeah, there's this whole samurai concept that we kind of fall back on all the time. It's called Bushido. It's the way of the warrior, and I absolutely live it. By no stretch of the imagination am I a samurai or a warrior of no stretch, but certainly the philosophy is something that I really, uh, you
Can
know,
you expand upon it for our listeners who may not be familiar with Bushido?
yeah. So it's the mantra of the way of the warrior. It's basic. It's to your point. It's integrity. It's transparency. It's being honest. It's being selfless. It's having team concept in mind and the overall arching goal that we're trying to achieve. And being selfless. I think that's something that and sacrifice and discipline. All those are all these Japanese uh, characteristics that we often see. And and that we see, the embodiment. And I think in a lot of ways, if you look at in the early '80s, the whole idea of how these Japanese companies dominated so much in American economy, you know, it's like that. They had team goal in mind, and it's something that I basically look at, and this is something that this is my guiding light towards that general philosophy of, hey, team effort, transparency, making sure that, hey, we're crystal clear in terms of what we're trying to do, so that that we don't lose track of what we're our aim is. And I think that was the big task and the big learn from my 2008 situation.
Yes. Yeah, and to have a beacon or a guiding light
Absolutely.
is absolutely critical for keeping us on course, especially during rugged and rougher times and
Absolutely.
weather. Yeah. When you spoke about team a little bit, tell me what your take is on how integrity impacts your team leadership and your leadership style and their corresponding response from those that you lead.
I think trust, transparency, I think that's very contagious. And I think that's something that I live with on a daily basis. Hey, you know what, making sure that you're as transparent and you're honest as possible, so the resulting effect is trust, not only trust among your colleagues, but trust from your uh, clients, in terms of establishing that loyalty, knowing they'll know that, hey, you know what, they'll trust that you make the right decisions for them, regardless it's at your expense. I think it's critically important. When you do that, it really kind of develops a culture that is, I think, valuable. And beyond that, from a team perspective, there's less micromanagement, because you trust that they're going to do the right thing. They're going to be self-autonomous, especially in our line of work, because when we're preparing taxes or we're doing statement bookkeeping or any of that boring stuff, it's not team effort there. It's just you're doing it yourself, and we all trust that we know what we're doing, and we trust that we know the deadlines. So it really is a place, that a culture that we're trying to develop on a very daily basis.
Yeah, and that comes through from my interactions with you. You're modeling integrity, clarity, honesty, transparency in every event that and every encounter I've had with you, and we've had multiple encounters as colleagues for sure.
No, I think,
Collaborative encounters.
yeah, I mean, you've been, you talk about beacon lights. I think you have been that light that have kind of, that since we've met a couple of years ago, you've been nothing but just a shining beacon of light for me to, to get to where I'm at today. And I truly want to thank you for
I
that.
appreciate that. Thanks for saying that publicly. That's
It's
very kind
true.
of you. Thank you. Yeah, and so one of the things it's interesting in just about everybody's professional life, if not personal life, we've encountered a time where the counterparty, the other individual or individuals or entity involved, was lacking integrity. And what transpired is my curiosity. Can you remember a time where you encountered where the other party just wasn't bringing integrity to the equation and how you had to deal with it so that maybe that can help our listeners steer clear of those things or at least recognize it when it's coming?
I that happens annually for me. That's during tax season. They're telling you to, hey, be a little bit more aggressive on their deductions. And and sometimes they're their worst enemy. And our job is to kind of realign them to the point where I'm like, hey, I don't know if this is worth it. And this is a constant reminder to our clients that, hey, that these little things bleed over to other things, and so we're reminded annually. Let's put it that way, Ralph.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the saying, what you do one way is what you do every way. Something
Yeah,
to that regard, right? Yeah.
yeah,
What you
yeah,
do here is what you'll do everywhere.
yeah. And yeah, absolutely.
And I
So
love
it's
that narrative, that picture of it bleeds over into other areas, right? And
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
and of course, correcting our clients or those we encounter, our own family members raising children, and course correcting them before they get way off course so that they stay down the fairway and hit that ball straight.
Yeah, and as you know, in our financial services industry, compliance and doing the right thing is
Paramount.
of the utmost. And so,
Paramount. Yes,
yeah, so it goes without saying.
absolutely. What we have many younger folks, Sam, that listen in and curious, just not apart from integrity, what are some of the things you remember or wish you knew when you were younger starting out, whether you're on a career working for a larger company, whether you're a startup with your own organization? What are some of those things that would help propel and accelerate the growth and the success for our younger listeners who are on that early part of their journey?
Don't chase the spotlight, chase the substance. I think the substance part of it is so fleeting. The spotlight part is so fleeting. It's the substance that's going to be lasting. It's going to be very attractive for not only your company, your clients, yourself, and making sure that you really truly understand who you are as a person. Honesty, integrity, um, transparency, all those things are I think are important factors for me as I develop a firm and make myself attractive to other clients. The one thing I am is very sympathetic, very sincere in terms of how I speak, and that's part of that substance part that people understand, don't get, and sometimes kind of glaze over. I'm not a fast talker per se. I don't use big falutin vocabulary words that that miss that it confuses people. So trying to connect with people on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, I don't think I've heard it said better. Don't chase the spotlight, chase the substance,
Yes, sir.
and be substantial in what you stand for. I would add to
Absolutely.
that. Yeah. Yeah, that's great sage advice. You have been a samurai in ways that you may not have appreciated about yourself today. The conversation has gone really well. I'm really happy. So, is there anything else before we wrap up and round the corner here that you'd like to share with our audience about either yourself, about integrity, anything that comes to mind?
You know, Not really. I think having a platform like yours for me to share some of some of my personal philosophy in a lot of ways is unique. I've never, like I shared with you earlier, I've never done this before. So there's a sense of adrenaline that's flowing through me right now. There is a sense of, hey, you know what, celebrity in a lot of ways, which is really something that I'm not used to. But I thank you for this opportunity. And like I said, we're as advisors out there, as you know, we're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to help people in the most important facet of their life, retirement, their finances, making sure things are settled properly. And so what we do on a very daily for our clients, Ralph, is substantial. And like I said, it's just a lot of work, and it just takes and guys like yourself, and myself and people that we know, this is work that we love to do, helping people make sure that they achieve their goals and make sure that they're living their best life.
Yes, the saying, and I know you abide by this, the pilot who says to the passengers, if you don't arrive safe, we don't arrive safe. That's the same spirit we bring to our relationships with our clients. Failure is just not an option.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've got to make sure that success is the outcome at all costs for that
Yes.
client. Yeah.
At paramount. Yes, sir.
Paramount. So, Sam, as we do round this corner and we kind of get to close to wrapping up, if anyone in our audience wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I'm old fashioned. I'm a telephone guy. We could go text, we could go Facebook, we could do a lot of things. But at the end of the day, I enjoy picking up the phone. And if you do so, please give me a call. My telephone number is 714-974-5119. And we're located in the city of Orange.
Wonderful. Well, Sam Hung of Capital Gains Financial Services, it was delight having this conversation with you. You really brought to light some very interesting insights in manners that I haven't seen necessarily echoed before on the show. So thank you for being a unique offering today in terms of what you have. And I really admire everything you're doing. You've got
Ralph, thank you.
You've got a wonderful practice both for taxes as well as for financial services. And you and I were talking about just how many tax returns you prepare in a year with your firm, and it's really pretty good volume. It's nothing to sneeze at for sure.
Ralph, you're gracious. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, Sam. Thanks again. And thank you for being on the Power of Integrity podcast, where leadership aligns with principles. I'm Ralph Adamo, your host. Go and make it a great day.
The information presented in this program is provided for informational purposes only. The information is believed to be reliable, but no guarantee of accuracy is made or implied. Expressions of opinions are as of this date and are subject to change without notice. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult a legal or tax professional. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of capital. Ralph Adamo is registered with the securities and are offered through Kovac Securities, Inc., member FINRA. SIPC, 6451 North Federal Highway, Suite 1201, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33308. Telephone number 954-782-4771. Investment advisory services are offered through Kovac Advisors, Inc. Integrity Wealth Management is not affiliated with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc.